Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another exciting edition of the Making Life Better show. My name is Lennon. Today I'm with a very special guest. Her name is Philippa Subanda. Welcome to the show, Philippa.
Thank you, Lynn, for having me today.
Great. So, Philippa is an accomplished businesswoman. She's been in the medical practitioning field and she's done a lot of work in Zimbabwe. She also sits on the board of Harare Central Hospital. Great stuff, eh? And I know she has also done a bit of aviation. That's a story in the background, but we're not going to dwell so much on that. So, Philippa is also a Zimnat baby, and we'll expand on that, why we're calling her a Zimnat baby. So, I'm going to give Philippa a chance to talk about herself. Let's start with when you became a Zimnat baby. What happened there?
So it's a very interesting story that I think is the core of who I am, basically.
Great.
I was unfortunate to have lost my mother at the age of about nine and a half. And I'm the last born in a family of five, and my mother was a single parent.
Right.
So upon her death, we discovered that she had a Zimnat plan.
Wow.
Yeah, so back then, this is back in the early 90s actually.
Early 90s.
And they would, they would be able to tailor make a plan to cover the tuition of your children.
Right.
So being that I was the last child in our family, I benefited the most. So, in those plans back then, you could actually write out literally the dream that you have for your children, the schools you want them to attend. So my mother stipulated, my mother originally was a school teacher.
Okay.
So she knew, she says, I want my daughter to go to a all-girls school, and it had to be Catholic.
Okay.
Okay, so of course I went to Montecasino. You guys know that Montecasino ranks in the top 5 for the most part in terms of the results.
Yeah.
So naturally, once you're positioned that way, everything else sort of falls into place in life. I mean, you come out, Montecasino generally, no one comes out failing. Everybody really just passes. And so I did well on my O levels.
Yes.
And didn't do so great on my A levels, but I ended up starting off, life with a career path that was already sort of predestined because of the decisions that my mother had made through insurance.
So I just want to take you back to that point when you then discovered that your mother had a policy.
Yes.
How did you manage to get that information?
I honestly was too young to understand what was going on at the time. But what I knew and understood that we had money that she had left for us. She had made a lot of stipulations on the money. It was managed by the Guardian Fund, at High Court. So it was a very structured thing through Zimnat, but structured through Guardian Fund. So, relatives couldn't really come into that plan, which was the lifesaver, because we lost other resources that my mother had left, but no one could touch the tuition. So she
was ruling from the grave.
She was an incredibly brilliant woman. And I think when I think about our time that we're living in and how people have PhDs and all these degrees, and I always ask, what's the planning that you have for your children?
Yes.
And I always see that my mother supersedes a lot of today's modern day women that seem highly educated more than she was at the time. So having that Guardian Fund, having it managed the way it was a no-brainer that I was going to succeed. I mean, at that point of her death, I was already successful in essence.
Right. So at that point, when you finished your A-level, that's when you moved to the States? Or?
Yes. As soon as I finished, I was here, I did some flying at Charles Prince, and then I moved on to Miami. I spent a gap year in England for a while, but it was a very short time, and then I moved to Miami where I, really ventured into aviation management, but was advised by one of my professors that, the landscape was changing. I needed to move into careers that were more, lucrative for foreigners, where the jobs were scarce and it was going to be. So there was this, thought process seeded in me that you want to be that person that has a skill set that is not found, easily.
Right.
So I naturally, from then on, always knew that I needed to get into areas where we're one or two of us with that skill set, and that's what you do to increase the value.
So your family set up now. You've got a son. I believe.
Yeah, I have an
Yes.
8-year-old. Yeah,
8-year-old
yeah,
son.
yeah.
Okay, great. So, as a mother, what would you say to other parents out there in terms of, if we relate back to how your own mother set up this fund, set up something through Zimnat that made you who you are now, basically. What would you say to other people who are out there who are tuned in and listening?
So I hear a lot of women talk about, like, for instance, property, and in fact, most women talk about how they work for their children.
Right.
Because my mom gave me the freedom to this education she gave me, and what my trajectory for my life became. I sort of had a freedom that now is instilled in me, in the sense that I know I can do what I want to do, not necessarily live your life by the communal standards or the societal standards, but you truly have this freedom because you've got this plan for your children that come rain, come thunder. If you do decide to go and fly a plane and you crash, there's a plan in place. And it's one of the things that was key for my mom is that my mom was a realist. She was someone who, what you see is what you get. So in the sense that she'll just tell you things as they were, right? And so being practical is the best way to think about setting up any fund. You need to know your family. Be real about your family. Don't try to sugarcoat anything. If you've got that brother who's an entrepreneur and an inventor and has been inventing most of his life, he's going to want to take that money. And if you've got that gambler brother who likes to go to the casinos, or who enjoys using money in a not so great way, they are going to come after those funds for your children. So you need to be practical, and you need to look at your environment, look at your ecosystem, your support system. Really ask yourself, who is going to be there for me in the event that I'm not there? Who's going to carry those shoes? And Zimnat was able to work that out. And because we were minors at the time, we were able to be supported by the High Court of Zimbabwe. So it wasn't just a situation where it's some lawyer, because a lot of people think, oh, I've got a trust, I'm set, but how do you know that that lawyer is not going to connive with, trust funds can easily be manipulated.
Yes.